A house of secrets and shadows. What if I told you there's a place where ghosts walk freely, mirrors trap spirits, and the past refuses to stay buried? A house so drenched in mystery and tragedy that visitors leave with more questions than answers. Welcome to the Myrtles Plantation, one of the most haunted houses in America. Tucked away in the quiet town of St. Francisville, Louisiana, this historic mansion has stood since 1796, built by a man named General David Bradford. But behind its stunning architecture and grand oak trees lies a chilling history. A history stained with murder, betrayal, and restless spirits. For over 2 centuries, the Myrtles Plantation has been home to ghostly apparitions, vanishing figures, eerie whispers, and supernatural events that defy explanation. Some say at least 12 spirits still haunt the halls, while others believe the house itself is cursed. But is it truly haunted? Or is it just a collection of eerie legends? Tonight, we're diving deep into the secrets of the Myrtles Plantation. We'll explore its dark history, the infamous murders, and spine-chilling encounters that continue to terrify visitors to this day. By the end of this story, you'll have to decide for yourself. Is the Myrtles Plantation a gateway to the afterlife, or just another ghost story passed down through generations? Let's begin. The history of death and tragedy. The Myrtles Plantation may be known today as a historic site, but its past is anything but peaceful. Beneath its charming exterior lies a history filled with death, suffering, and untold horrors. Over the centuries, the plantation has witnessed unspeakable tragedies, murders, curses, and spirits that refuse to rest. But one story stands above the rest. A story so chilling that it has become the most infamous legend tied to this haunted estate. A story of betrayal, revenge, and the ghost of a woman who still roams the halls to this day. The Curse of Chloe, a slave's revenge. In the early 1800s, the Myrtles Plantation was owned by Clark and Sarah Woodruff, a wealthy couple who lived in the mansion with their children. Like many plantation owners of that time, they had slaves working in the house and the fields. Among them was a young woman named Chloe. Chloe was a house servant, trusted to care for the home and even watch over the Woodruff children. But according to legend, Chloe had a secret. Clark Woodruff, the master of the house, was a man of power and desire. It is said that he forced himself upon his slaves, including Chloe. She refused to be just another victim, but in those days, saying no wasn't an option. She became one of his mistresses, not by choice, but out of survival. She knew that as long as she kept him pleased, she would be safe. But the moment his attention strayed, her life could be in danger. And that's exactly what happened. Over time, Clark grew tired of Chloe. He turned his attention to another slave, casting her aside like she was nothing. Chloe was no longer welcome in his bedroom, and she knew her position in the house was at risk. If she was sent to the fields, her life would become unbearable. The brutal conditions of working under the scorching Louisiana sun, the whippings, the endless labor, she had to do something. She had to make sure she remained valuable to the family. The poisoned cake. One evening, Chloe overheard a conversation that sealed her fate. She listened as Sarah Woodruff spoke about getting rid of a few house slaves, and she was among them. Panic set in. She had to act fast. Chloe devised a deadly plan. She would poison the family, not enough to kill them, but just enough to make them sick. That way, she could nurse them back to health and regain their trust. So she baked a cake, a sweet, inviting dessert laced with crushed oleander leaves, a highly toxic plant. She served it to Sarah Woodruff and her 2 children, watching as they took the first bites. But something went horribly wrong. Instead of just falling ill, they died, one by one. Their bodies collapsed onto the floor, writhing in agony as the poison took effect. Chloe had made a fatal mistake. And when the other slaves realized what she had done, they were terrified. They knew that if their master discovered her crime, he would punish them all. So before Clark Woodruff could find out, the slaves took justice into their own hands. They dragged Chloe outside, put a rope around her neck, and hung her from a tree on the plantation grounds. Her body swung lifelessly in the wind, a warning to anyone who dared to cross their master. As if that wasn't enough, they cut her body down and threw it into the Mississippi River, ensuring she would never receive a proper burial. But death wasn't the end for Chloe. Her spirit remained. And to this day, visitors of the Myrtles Plantation report seeing a woman in a green turban, her ghostly figure wandering the halls, forever tied to the place where she met her tragic fate. Other tragedies and deaths at Myrtles Plantation. But Chloe's story is just one of many. Death lingers in every corner of this house. Over the years, numerous murders and unexplained deaths have taken place within its walls. At the gunshot on the stairs, in 1871, a man named William Winter was shot on the front porch of the house. He was a lawyer, gunned down by a stranger. In his final moments, he staggered inside and attempted to climb the stairs, but he never made it to the top. He collapsed on the 17th step, where he died in a pool of his own blood. Visitors today claim to hear his ghostly footsteps, struggling up the staircase over and over again, as if he's still trying to reach safety. The haunted mirror. Inside the plantation, there is an antique mirror that is said to hold the spirits of Sarah Woodruff and her children. After their deaths, this mirror was placed in the home, but no one covered it, a crucial mistake, according to Southern traditions. Because of this, their souls became trapped inside. To this day, people report seeing handprints, shadowy figures, and ghostly faces staring back at them from the glass. Some even say the mirror leaks a strange liquid, as if it's crying for the souls inside. The spirits of the slaves. The Myrtles Plantation was built on the suffering of enslaved people. Many died within its walls, whether from disease, punishment, or sheer exhaustion. Some believe their spirits never left. Visitors have reported hearing chains dragging, whispers in the dead of night, and cries echoing through the house. Others claim to see shadowy figures moving through the hallways, as if the past is replaying itself over and over again. The unfinished business of the dead. This house is more than just bricks and wood. It is a tomb, a prison for spirits who cannot move on. Some say it's cursed. Others believe that the sheer amount of pain and suffering absorbed into its walls has created a gateway to the afterlife. But one thing is certain, the Myrtles Plantation is not just another old house. It is a place where the past refuses to die. Paranormal encounters, the ghosts that haunt Myrtles Plantation. The Myrtles Plantation is not just a place of historical tragedy, it is a place where the dead refuse to rest. Visitors and staff alike have reported chilling encounters, many of which defy all logical explanations. Some spirits remain unseen, their presence felt only through whispers, shadows, and sudden temperature drops. Others reveal themselves in terrifying ways, leaving those who dare to enter with an overwhelming sense of dread. Many who visit walk away with stories they can't explain. And for some, the spirits follow them home. The ghost of Chloe, the woman in the green turban. For over a century, the spirit of Chloe has been seen wandering the plantation. Her distinctive green turban makes her impossible to mistake. Guests have reported waking up in the middle of the night, gasping for breath, as if unseen hands are pressing against their throat. Others claim to hear soft whispers in their ears, only to turn and find no one there. Some have even seen her standing at the foot of their bed, her sorrowful eyes staring into theirs before vanishing into thin air. But one of the most chilling pieces of evidence comes from a photograph taken in 1992. A visitor captured a shadowy figure standing near the house, a figure that wasn't seen at the time, yet appeared in the image when it was developed. The figure was dressed in a turban and plantation-style clothing, just as Chloe would have worn. Was it her? Or was it something else? The haunted mirror, faces from beyond the grave. In the grand hallway of the house hangs an antique mirror, but it is far from ordinary. After the tragic deaths of Sarah Woodruff and her children, this mirror was placed in the home. But according to Southern tradition, mirrors must be covered after a death, otherwise, the souls of the deceased may become trapped inside. This mirror was never covered. And to this day, it remains one of the most haunted objects in the house. Visitors report seeing handprints on the glass, even after it has been cleaned. Some claim to see faces staring back at them, faces that don't belong to the living. There have been reports of a black, tar-like substance dripping from the edges of the mirror, as if it's crying for the souls inside. Some believe that Sarah and her children are still inside, forever imprisoned within the mirror's reflection. The 12 Ghosts of Myrtles Plantation. The Myrtles Plantation is said to be haunted by at least 12 spirits, each with its own tragic past. Shadowy figures are often seen moving across the floors, disappearing before anyone can get a closer look. Children's laughter echoes through the halls, even when no children are present. The grand piano plays by itself, its eerie notes filling the house in the dead of night. One former owner even claimed that while she was alone in the house, she heard footsteps following her everywhere she went. No matter how fast she moved, the footsteps matched her pace, always one step behind, but when she turned around, there was no one there. The spirit of William Winter, the man who never reached the top. One of the most tragic and terrifying hauntings is that of William Winter, a man who died trying to escape his murderer. In 1871, Winter, a lawyer who lived at Myrtles Plantation, was shot on the front porch. Desperate to reach his wife, he staggered inside and tried to climb the stairs. He made it to the 17th step before collapsing and dying. Today, visitors say his ghost still tries to finish his journey. A guest report hearing the sound of heavy, struggling footsteps on the stairs, each step growing weaker until it stops at the 17th step. Some have even seen a ghostly figure fall to the floor, gasping for breath, only for it to disappear into thin air. It's as if his final moments play out over and over again, trapped in a never-ending loop of death. The unseen presence, when you are not alone. Many who visit the Myrtles Plantation leave with an overwhelming feeling that they were being watched. Some describe feeling a cold breath against their neck, as if someone is standing right behind them, but when they turn, there's nothing but empty air. Others say that doors slam shut on their own, and lights flicker without reason. Some guests even wake up to find their bed covers pulled off, as if an unseen force is trying to drag them out of bed. Even skeptics, people who come expecting nothing, leave the house with a new fear of the unknown. The paranormal investigations. The Myrtles Plantation has been featured on numerous paranormal investigation shows, including Ghost Hunters, Unsolved Mysteries, Most Haunted. Investigators have captured unexplained EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, disembodied voices whispering in the silence, moving objects caught on camera, furniture shifting when no one is near, temperature drops, cold spots appearing out of nowhere. Many investigators refuse to stay in the house overnight. Some say they felt a presence so dark and menacing that they had to leave immediately. And some claim to have taken something home with them. Are you brave enough to visit? The Myrtles Plantation remains open to visitors, with ghost tours offered to those daring enough to enter. But be warned. Some say that once you step inside, you never truly leave. The spirits of Myrtles Plantation have been known to follow people home, attaching themselves to those they choose. So if you ever visit, be careful who, or what, you bring back with you. Chilling real-life testimonies, encounters that can't be ignored. The Myrtles Plantation has been called one of the most haunted places in America, but it isn't just an old legend. People, real people, have seen, heard, and felt things they can't explain. Visitors, staff members, and even skeptics who never believed in ghosts have walked away from the plantation with stories that sent chills down their spine. These are first-hand accounts of people who dared to step inside and left forever changed. A night of terror, the guests who couldn't stay. One of the most infamous testimonies comes from a couple who booked a night at the Myrtles Plantation. They were excited for the experience. A night in a haunted house sounded thrilling. But by the time the sun rose, they were gone. What happened that night still haunts them to this day. Around 2:30 a.m., the woman woke up feeling like she was being watched. She nudged her husband, but he was fast asleep. As she rolled over, she saw a dark figure standing near the doorway, just outside their room. It wasn't moving, it was just staring. Frozen in fear, she tried to wake her husband again, but something was stopping her from moving. And then, suddenly, the bed covers ripped off them. At that moment, her husband shot up, gasping for air. He said he felt like someone was pressing down on his chest, stopping him from breathing. They bolted out of bed, grabbed their things, and ran out of the house. They didn't even wait for daylight. To this day, they refuse to talk about what happened in detail. The only thing they will say is, "We will never go back." The woman in the mirror. A woman visiting the Myrtles Plantation took a photo of the haunted mirror. She didn't notice anything unusual at first. But when she looked at the photo later, she saw something that made her heart stop. Behind her reflection was the face of a woman she had never seen before. The figure was pale, her mouth twisted open as if she were screaming. Terrified, she showed the photo to a staff member. Without hesitation, they said, "You've just seen Sarah Woodruff." The laughing children in the night. A former employee at the plantation recalls a chilling experience while closing up the house one evening. As he turned off the lights and locked the doors, he heard the sound of giggling coming from the second floor. At first, he thought it was a guest who had stayed behind, but when he checked, the rooms were completely empty. The laughter grew louder. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, it stopped. An eerie silence filled the air. As he turned to leave, he felt a cold hand grab his arm. Spinning around, he saw nothing but darkness. Shaken, he quit his job the next morning. To this day, he refuses to step foot inside the house. The shadows that watch. Many guests who visit Myrtles Plantation report seeing shadow figures lurking in the hallways. Some say they appear as dark shapes moving along the walls, while others claim to see full-bodied apparitions standing motionless in the corners of rooms. A man staying in one of the plantation's rooms woke up to a shadowy figure standing beside his bed, staring down at him. When he blinked, it was suddenly at the foot of the bed. Then, it was gone. He barely slept the rest of the night. The next morning, He asked a staff member if anyone else had seen the shadow figure. The staff just nodded and said one thing: "You're not the first." Paranormal investigators' evidence, the proof they can't explain. Paranormal investigation teams have spent countless nights at the Myrtles Plantation, trying to capture proof of its hauntings. What they found is terrifying. EVP recordings captured voices whispering things like "get out" and "help me" when no one else was in the room. A thermal camera footage, unexplained heat signatures appearing where no one was standing. A poltergeist activity, chairs moving on their own, doors slamming shut, objects falling off shelves without reason. One investigator even claimed that after leaving Myrtles Plantation, his house became haunted. He began experiencing a hearing whispers in the middle of the night, a seeing shadows move across his bedroom, a his electronics turning on and off by themselves. It was as if something had followed him home. He never returned to Myrtles Plantation again. A house of unfinished business. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, there's no denying that something lingers at the Myrtles Plantation. The sheer number of eyewitness accounts, chilling encounters, and unexplained events cannot be ignored. People come looking for answers, but most leave with more questions than before. What keeps these spirits trapped here? Are they trying to communicate? Or are they warning us to stay away? One thing is for sure, the Myrtles Plantation is not just a house. It is a living, breathing entity of the past. And if you ever step inside, be prepared. You may not walk out alone. Theories and skepticism, is it all just a legend? The Myrtles Plantation is undeniably one of the most famous haunted locations in America. Countless people have claimed to see ghosts, feel unseen forces, and experience things they cannot explain. But is it truly haunted? Or is it just a combination of history, folklore, and our own fears manifesting into something more? While many believe the spirits of the past still roam its halls, others argue that there are logical explanations for every eerie event. Tonight, we're looking at both sides of the story. The paranormal theories, why the hauntings are real. For those who believe in the supernatural, the Myrtles Plantation is a prime example of a residual haunting, a place where trauma, suffering, and intense emotions have left a permanent mark on the land. 1. The energy of the past still lingers. Many paranormal researchers believe that places where great tragedies occurred hold onto the energy of those events. The Myrtles Plantation was home to a slavery and human suffering, a place where people were oppressed, mistreated, and died in despair. And murders and sudden deaths, some say violent deaths, create a powerful imprint on the environment. Their unfinished business, spirits who died unjustly, like Chloe or William Winter, may still be lingering, unable to move on. If spirits exist, Myrtles Plantation would be a hotspot for supernatural activity. 2. Residual versus intelligent hauntings. Some investigators believe two types of hauntings exist at Myrtles Plantation. A residual hauntings, these ghosts do not interact with the living. They are like an echo of the past, replaying their last moments over and over. This could explain the ghost of William Winter, who is seen dying on the 17th step repeatedly. Or intelligent hauntings, these spirits are aware of the living and attempt to communicate. The ghost of Chloe, the whispering voices, and the handprints appearing on mirrors could suggest that some spirits are trying to reach out. 3. The Myrtles Plantation is a portal. Some psychics believe that the plantation sits on a spiritual vortex, a location where the barrier between the living and the dead is thinner. This could explain why so many different ghosts are seen. The hauntings seem to intensify at certain times. Visitors claim to take spirits home with them. Could the Myrtles Plantation be a doorway between worlds? Or is something even darker keeping these spirits trapped? The skeptic's view, is it all just a story? Of course, not everyone believes in ghosts. Many historians and skeptics have questioned the truth behind the Myrtles Plantation legends. 1. The story of Chloe, fact or fiction? While Chloe's tale is one of the most famous ghost stories in America, there is no historical record of her existence. No evidence exists that Clark Woodruff ever owned a slave named Chloe. No official records mention the poisoning of his wife and children. Some believe the story was created to attract tourists. If Chloe's story isn't true, then who is the ghost seen wearing a green turban? 2. The mirror mystery, a simple explanation? The famous haunted mirror is said to contain the souls of Sarah Woodruff and her children. But skeptics argue that the handprints and faces in the mirror could be a trick of the light. The black liquid that appears on the glass could be an effect of aging and humidity, not something supernatural. Is it a portal for lost souls, or just a really old mirror? 3. Why so many ghost sightings? Some skeptics believe that the reason so many people experience paranormal activity at Myrtles Plantation is because the power of suggestion is strong. If you visit a place expecting to see ghosts, your mind may trick you into believing you did. Nighttime tours play on fear. Many ghost tours use low lighting, eerie stories, and psychological tricks to create an unsettling atmosphere. As some people may be lying or exaggerating, with Myrtles Plantation being a famous tourist attraction, there is money to be made in keeping the legend alive. Could it all be a clever mix of myth, fear, and expectation? The truth, is the Myrtles Plantation haunted? At the end of the day, no one can say for sure what lurks within Myrtles Plantation. The skeptics may have their explanations. The believers may have their proof. But the truth remains. Too many people have experienced something at Myrtles Plantation. Too many stories match up. Too many strange things happen that defy logic. So the real question is, would you dare to spend the night at Myrtles Plantation? Because whether you believe in ghosts or not, something is waiting in the dark. Do you believe? For over 2 centuries, the Myrtles Plantation has stood as a place where history and horror collide. From the tragic story of Chloe, to the unexplained sightings of ghostly figures, to the eerie testimonies of visitors who fled in terror, this plantation is unlike any other. Some call it one of the most haunted places in America. Others say it's just a legend, a story crafted to scare and entertain. But whether you're a skeptic or a believer, one fact remains. Something is happening at the Myrtles Plantation. Too many people have seen the same ghostly woman in a green turban. Too many visitors have felt a presence, heard whispers, or seen shadows move on their own. Too many investigators have captured evidence that defies explanation. So, is the Myrtles Plantation truly haunted? Or is it just another story passed down through generations, one that has taken on a life of its own? That decision is yours. But if you ever find yourself standing on the steps of the Myrtles Plantation, if you ever hear footsteps behind you when no one else is there, if you ever wake up in the dead of night, feeling like something is watching you, remember this: sometimes, legends are born from truth. What do you think? Now, I want to hear from you. Do you believe the Myrtles Plantation is truly haunted? Or do you think it's all just a chilling story? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most haunted places in America, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps support the channel. And don't forget to subscribe for more terrifying stories, haunted history, and unsolved mysteries. Because trust me, there are more dark secrets waiting to be uncovered. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and remember, some doors should never be opened.